This video is sponsored by UnlockThatPhone.com. Unlock any phone, any carrier, worldwide. Visit UnlockThatPhone.com for more information. What's up guys, Jared back. So I wanted to do a comparison video between the LG G Flex and the Galaxy Note 3. Now I didn't want to do the typical type of comparison where people just put them head to head and which one can launch applications the quickest and which one benchmarks the fastest and so on. It doesn't really seem relevant for the average consumer. And that's kind of the people who are going to be watching these videos, people who want to know which one they should buy. So anyways, let's go ahead and compare these two on a consumer level, shall we? Alrighty, so here we are. We've got the Samsung Galaxy Note 3 clearly in my left hand and the LG G Flex obviously on my right hand. Now, I wanted to talk about hardware spec differences first because that's definitely something that we need to get out of the way. The LG G Flex, and the first aspect I wanted to touch base on to get this out of the way is, sorry about that, is the display. Now, this device was released in late 2013, and unfortunately, it's got a 6-inch display. Why is that bad? Well, because it's also rocking a 720p display resolution with a PPI of only 245, which unfortunately is really, really sad compared to a lot of the other devices that came out with 1080p displays well early on into 2013. Now, as far as the processors are concerned, processors, Snapdragon 800 processors, both of them. The LG G Flex is clocked at 2.26 gigahertz, and the Galaxy Note 3 is clocked at 2.3 gigahertz. So, I mean, you could argue that it's pretty much the same processor. Now, a big difference is the Galaxy Note 3 is rocking a 3 gigabytes of RAM, and the LG G Flex is rocking 2 gigabytes of RAM. So you guys are probably wondering, well, the Galaxy Note 3 probably runs a lot faster than the LG G Flex based on that RAM. Well, you're right, but kind of. Yeah, it launches applications a little bit faster and gets through tasks just a little bit faster. But when I say a little bit faster, I mean just a little bit. The only way you'll notice is if you actually have both devices in your hand and you launch the applications, the same apps at the same time. You'll notice that the Galaxy Note 3 does launch it just a little bit quicker. Probably even just half a second quicker than the G Flex. That said, if you're just a person with the phone in your hand and you don't have both phones to compare, you're never going to notice, and it is still definitely fast. As far as lag is concerned, I don't really notice lag on either devices. A lot of people complain that TouchWiz is very heavy and very laggy, and maybe that's why they included 3 gigabytes of RAM to accompany it, not only because the sort of heavy weight TouchWiz launcher, but also because of all the extra features based on the S Pen and so on. I don't know, I'm not an engineer, but I really haven't had any performance slowdowns or loss of frame rate or anything like that when doing any tasks or activities with the G Flex. So as far as performance is concerned, in my opinion, they're pretty much exactly the same. Battery life now. Battery life on the, the battery size on the Galaxy Note 3 is, if memory serves me correctly, 3,200 milliamps, which is really, really large. The LG G Flex is 3,500 milliamps. Now, I did notice that I got a slightly better battery performance out of the G Flex, but mainly because, one, the battery is bigger, and two, because we're only powering a 720p display with a very low resolution, whereas the Galaxy Note 3 has a 1080p display, 5.7 inches, 1080p, and a 386 PPI. So it's going to be using a little bit more energy to power this bad boy than it would to power this. Now, as far as the cameras are concerned, both of which rock 13 megapixel cameras, both of which can do 1080p video, even 4K video thanks to that Snapdragon 800 processor. However, I did notice that as far as snapping the shots, as far as the actual picture taking speed itself is concerned, I noticed that more consistently on the LG G Flex, it took pictures quicker than the Galaxy Note 3. The Galaxy Note 3 does take pictures very quickly. However, every now and then it seemed to have this little processing bar going across, and by the time that processing bar was done, although it only took maybe a second to a second and a half, the LG G Flex had already taken 2 or 3 other pictures, right? That said, the software, the camera software, as far as the applications are concerned, do differ quite a bit. A lot of them, both of them do have very similar features. However, there are some big differences. Now, if you're somebody that is a big camera buff, you take a lot of pictures with your phones, you're very familiar with the different features and functions of, you know, the ISO and exposure and things like that, the Galaxy Note 3, in my opinion, is probably the better bang for your buck, considering it does have a lot more customizable features in the camera. The LG G Flex, however, seems to have a lot more of a simplified and cleaner layout. It's not oversaturating and not overwhelming to what I would consider the average consumer, which is something kind of like me. Although I am a power user, I do prefer simplicity, functional simplicity at that. And actually, while we're talking about it, let's go ahead and take a look really quickly. So just to kind of touch briefly on the camera software here, you can see it's very clean UI. And if we go ahead and click on mode here, just like the Galaxy Note 3 here, in fact, I'll open it up on the Galaxy Note 3 here and jump into mode so I can compare that in just a second here. So here's the different modes that we have. Obviously, for different scenarios, different situations throughout the day, you can go ahead and choose a mode that suits your situation. And same thing with the Galaxy Note 3, as you can see here, though it might just have one or two other options to it. And that's cool, okay. Now, what about the settings menu, or the settings options though? So we go ahead and click on setting, and this is it. Nicely laid out, very simple, all the things that you would need, even if you do like to screw around with the brightness and the ISO and things like that. It's all very simple. If we were to click on the Galaxy Note 3's settings, boop, like that, then we've got this little sidebar and people are thinking, okay, and then they click on this and oh my god, there's even more? Oh, what's going on here? And it just seems like it's a little bit overwhelming for the average user or for somebody that isn't a huge photography buff like myself. So that's one thing I kind of wanted to point out to you guys. Now, while we're still on the topic of hardware, one of the big things that LG's done recently since the LG G2 is actually decided to put and break out of the box from all the other manufacturers out there and put the power button and volume rocker on the back of the device just underneath the camera. And although I initially thought that was a really cool feature, I thought that was a great idea. I'm like, it just makes sense because you put your phone up to your head and this finger always just seems to be there doing nothing. Well, it may as well have some buttons there to play around with. And it's very logical and makes sense. The unfortunate side of that is that it's very confusing to me. You've got, if we go ahead into the device camera here, you'll notice that we've got the camera, then we've got the volume up rocker, we've got the power button, which also doubles as an LED indicator. And by the way, in case you guys were wondering, that's not the only LED indicator. There's one that's also on the front, as you can see there, when it'll blink in just a moment. And then we've got the volume down rocker. And you would think that logically, it should be easy to find that even though it's got these sort of like little braille-like dots on them to indicate, you know, that these are the volume rockers, I found myself more often than not pressing the camera thinking that it was the power button or it's something, and when I'm trying to, you know, change the volume, I was like all the way down here pressing the volume down when I was trying to get it to go up, and it just becomes a bit cumbersome to the point where I'm like, okay, where the bloody hell is it? Okay, and that makes it sort of defeats the purpose of it being logical, whereas the Galaxy Note 3 has the traditional power button on one side and volume rockers on the left side. So that way I can, my thumb is always there and my pointer finger could always be on the volume rocker. It's just very simple and easily distinguishable. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about is personalization, right? You get your device, you know, you want to start personalizing it to be your, to be your phone, right? And if you guys didn't know, there's actually 4,500 third-party launchers on the Play Store right now. And, you know, for the average person that just picks up a phone, they go, okay, cool, well, I'm not really satisfied with what I get in personalization options here. Let's download a third-party launcher. You know, there's so many, and it's really nice to just maybe not have to be able to, or be forced to maybe have to download a third-party launcher. And that's kind of where LG kind of wins this race against the Galaxy Note 3. So let me go ahead and show you what I mean. So with the Galaxy Note 3, as far as customization options are concerned, of course, you can do live wallpapers, you can do static wallpapers, you can add or remove folders, you can change around the icons and widgets and all that standard stuff that we've been used to since the beginning of Android, except for the live wallpapers, obviously. But anyways, you know, of course we can pinch out and you can get add or remove home screens and so on, and that's cool. However, go ahead and take a look at the G Flex here. So one thing that I thought was really kind of interesting is, you know, a lot of people, they have their wallpapers or pictures of things that they really like, something they think is cool. Otherwise, they wouldn't have it front and center on their home screen, right? If you, say, for instance, have a family picture or some cool picture of a car or something that you want to show your friends, instead of adding or keeping blank home screens on the display so you can go ahead and show your friends, go ahead and do this. And as you can see, everything disappears. We've still got all the home screens that I started out with. Actually, not all the home screens that I started out with. Oh yeah, no, actually all the home screens. And if you have a scrollable picture or a wallpaper or whatever, you can go ahead and take a look at it, show your friends, though unfortunately, because the display is only 720p, the resolution might be not so desirable, right? Also, because this is such a big phone, A lot of people have difficulty pressing the buttons down there at the bottom. Same thing can be even said for the Galaxy Note 3, which is even a little bit smaller, right? Some people might have a bit of an issue reaching all the way over to that bloody menu button there, right? Well, with the LG G Flex, they kind of did something cool. Whoop! And now I can reach every single one of those buttons myself. Oh, what's that? You're left-handed? We got you covered, right? So I think that's really, really cool. Then, in addition to that, if we go ahead and pinch in, of course, you can add all the additional things all you want. And if we long press, then you've got all these, you've got your gallery, you can jump any apps and drop them in there and so on and so forth. But if we jump into the settings menu here and actually go to general, I think it was in general, nope, back into display, the top, click on the home screen selection there. We've got two different themes, though it is only two, I know. Two is better than one. We've also got some other things here. So we got this screen swipe effect. You can go ahead and preview the screen swipe effect, which is generally something you find in third-party launchers. So you can go ahead and do that to your heart's content. And in addition to that, let's say, for instance, you're not happy with the configuration of the on-screen buttons there. Go ahead and jump in here and go ahead and jump in a button combination, and you've got some different combinations, which again, you know, there's options for you, so you can customize it to your liking, which is really, really cool. In addition to that, although you only get two different colors to choose from, you still get to choose from a couple of different colors, which again is pretty darn awesome. Now, as far as all those fancy bells and whistles features that Samsung is so bloody unfortunately famous for, and which is also one of the aspects of their devices that I don't like. They just put too much useless stuff that nobody uses. And so let me go ahead and give you an example of that. Jump into the Galaxy Note 3 here, into the settings menu, and you can see down here under controls, under motion control, you've got air adjuster, air view, air this, air that. A lot of this is using all the different sensors in your device. A lot of these things are going to be using your front-facing camera, all of which is going to be eating and chewing up your battery life. And for somebody that isn't really familiar with all these magical features that Samsung's bestowed upon their devices, they may not know to turn them off. And as a result, their phones might start doing some pretty bloody strange things that they've never experienced before, and they might just not like it. And the thing is about these features is that almost every single tech reviewer that's ever reviewed Samsung Galaxy devices since the S4 and up, which is like, you know, the Note 3 and so on, none of us like these features because none of them work 100% all of the time. It's so inconsistent. The situation or the environment has to be so perfect for these things to work perfectly. It's just pointless. So we just turn them all off anyways. The LG G Flex keeps all that to a minimum. All you've got in terms of all those fancy gimmicky features is smart screen and smart video. Basically, again, using your front-facing camera to detect your face and which way it's facing. The only other feature that I found to be sort of a gimmick, but I still think is kind of cool, is if we jump in here and we jump into gestures, is actually the screen on-off. So obviously, if you're on your home screen, go to a blank area of the screen, double tap it, and it turns the display off. Double tap the center of the home screen while it's off, and it jumps you into your lock screen, which I think is a really, really cool feature. So anyways, guys, I guess in my conclusion of both of these devices, you know, the way I look at the LG G Flex is that it's an awesome concept car. It's a concept car that came to the market, so it's as if like McLaren or like, you know, BMW came up with a really sweet car. Sort of impractical in terms of some of its features, but really cool, even though not a whole lot of people are going to buy it. The Galaxy Note 3 has a bunch of features on it which are great, but a lot of it just makes more sense. It's got a 1080p display versus a 720p display, 5.7 inches versus 6 inches, and again, you know, your size preference is purely subjective. But between these two devices, I'm still going to have to hand it off to the Galaxy Note 3 as being my favorite device between these two. Anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Hopefully it helped you. Hopefully you liked the video, and if you did like it, click that likes button down below. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe for more videos in the future. But that's it for now. Thanks as always for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.